Hello, hello, hello to another, what's going to be a very, very interesting episode of Fanta Kamara Uncensored. We had to take a little break, and but I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we are finally back. I definitely missed you guys. I know you missed us. I've been seeing some of the messages, so we are glad to be back, and we are more than ever very much, I want to say, perplexed at the global affairs of the world. It's as if we're living in a time machine, or we're living in a dystopia setting where nothing makes sense. The decisions you expect to happen rarely happens. The ones you rarely expect, that's what happens, and you are left just scratching your head. How do we arrive here? And who really controls what? Because when it comes down to it, the people that we elect, who are supposed to be making sensible decisions on our behalf, are often the ones making decisions that are quite questionable. So without further ado, let's jump into the topics for today. Number one, who's controlling Hezbollah? Actually, take that back. Who's controlling Lebanon? Right? Not Hezbollah, but who's controlling Lebanon? And most specifically, the Lebanese government, the Lebanese prime minister, the Lebanese leaders. That is a very important question. We're going to attempt to dive into today to give you some insight into the power play that's happening in the background beyond the eyes of the general public, right? Second on the list is going to be, of course, South Africa. June 30th has come and passed. And so what's going to happen? Did you guys become millionaires overnight because you no longer have immigrants in your country, especially African Black immigrants? Because we know this is more Afrophobic than a xenophobic attempt, which is an anti-immigrant stance. We know it's more geared towards Black Africans. And so the March in March, or the Operation Dudula that have existed to cleanse South Africa of Black Africans had set a June 30th date that they give to all Africans, or all immigrants to leave all immigrants, let me put that in quotation, all immigrants to leave their country. June 30 has come and gone by. What happened? We're also going to dive into that. One topic that is also super interesting today is COVID. And all of these, I would say, weird diseases that have popped up out of nowhere. Today is COVID. Tomorrow is Ebola. The day before that is anthrax. And it leaves you asking the question, are these manufactured? And are they manufactured to actually be disseminated into the public or released into the public and for a particular purpose? What were they manufactured for, right? If indeed that is the side of the debate that we're on, because the other side of that debate is that they came from things like primates or monkeys or bats or wild animals. We know that all of that is absolutely horse crap. But those are going to be the three topics for today. So buckle up. Let me know if you have any questions, put them in the comments section. I'm going to try to engage as much as possible. But this is just as much of Uncensored show as much as yours, right? Because you guys are my partners in this. So I'm absolutely relying on you to keep this going. Also to have you engaging. Don't hesitate if you have any questions, put in the comment. We're going to try to address it and figure it out together. We learn together, right? So let's go ahead and get started. Unless you've been under a rock, recently, with all of the interestingness happening in the world, we have been bombarded by a barrage of deals, right? First, it was the Iran-US deal, the 14-point MOU that I shared sometime last week, then again, we know that that deal was thrown out the window. They went to Switzerland to pursue another. That also has been thrown out the window because we know that Iran and the US and Israel are back to bombing each other. It's as if there is this perpetual interest not to have peace in the region. And we know that there are certain players who are actively driving for that outcome because they want ultimate control. It ultimately feeds into specifically the Greater Israel Project, which they want to expand their borders beyond the current Palestinian territory into Lebanon, into Syria, and other countries in the Middle East. So, including Iran as well. So these endless wars are not in error. They're not by mistake, and they're being driven heavily by a couple of state actors, of course, Asia and the US. There has been some talks that this is a lot bigger than those two parties, is actually ran or being pushed by secret societies who have financial motives and want to control the world. And part of controlling the world is ensuring that they control your central bank. And these countries in the Middle East, Iran, Syria at the time, are among those who do not have central banks controlled by these groups, be it the Rothschild, as has been floating around. And so when you examine all of that, it brings you to the realization that there are certainly multiple players partaking in these various actions. And are these two people, Israel and the US, are just a global front or just a front for the real global powers who we really get to see? I want to go ahead and get started here with a clip, just kind of getting into what this deal was all about and what has been Israel's response, as we know, and how has Hezbollah responded as well. Now, this particular deal that I'm talking about is the deal between the Lebanon that was brokered by the US and Israel, right? So the deal between Lebanon and Israel brokered by the US. Secretary of State Rubio. This was, keep in mind, from the 14-point MOU that stated that Lebanon, per the deal between US and Iran, is a sovereign nation, had to remain a sovereign nation, was to be protected. Well, Israel didn't like that, and of course, went back to bombing Lebanon. Now, a few days ago, the Lebanese government moved to sign an agreement without, of course, its most important actor, Hezbollah. And this agreement, it is quite astounding, I'm telling you. It essentially removes the sovereignty from Lebanon, right, as a sovereign nation or as a sovereign state. It forces them to completely capitulate to Israel's demands, of course, fostered by the US. And a lot of citizens, rightfully so, in Lebanon are enraged. Why would our government sign such a deal? It completely puts us on the losing end. It does not give Lebanon the intended sovereign rights that is entitled to a sovereign nation. In fact, it includes things like Israel is going to maintain its presence in southern Lebanon. As we know, they have been bombing the crap out of it and have killed tens of thousands of Lebanese. They have always wanted southern Lebanon, and now this deal is essentially formalizing that for them. And the stipulation that they put in here, which we know it is just for, as a facade, right? They're asking that Hezbollah be disarmed in order for Israel to not occupy southern Lebanon as they have been doing, which is preposterous. We know that Hezbollah is a resistant group, and I'm going to get into the historical portion here. But it is completely ridiculous to even think that that is a possibility. And they're relying on the Lebanese government and the Lebanese military to enact this particular action. Now, again, if you've been paying attention, you know very well that the Lebanese government and the Lebanese military are heavily influenced by foreign actors, including the West, France, the US, and Israel. We know that the PM is essentially a pawn for Israel. We know that he trained in the US. And so having any type of sensible expectations out of him to represent his people in a dignified manner, we know is far-fetched. But we at least expected him to back Hezbollah in this resistance against the IDF incursion and occupation of Lebanon. It just makes the most sense to think that you'll want to do whatever it takes to maintain your borders. It's a saying, Germany is going to come and occupy Texas. And Trump is like, yeah, sure. And then the only stipulation that they put in there is, yeah, we will only leave if you, I don't know, send back our BMWs, like something crazy like that, right? Which is not all the way out there, but those are personal choices like been made. And at the end of the day, perhaps that's not the best comparison, but no sovereign nation would agree to something like that. It is egregious. It is outrageous. It is stupidity at its best. It is idiotic. We can really come up with all of the adjectives to describe what the Lebanese prime minister has agreed to. But I want to pull in a clip from Al Jazeera here, just going over. And then, as I said, we're going to get into the historical context here, how all of this even came to be. And then we'll discuss afterwards. But please do share the show, do comment, do like and follow all of our pages. It is at FK Uncensored. We really appreciate your engagement.
On trade account.
All right, let me cue in. Let's split the screen here. Let's add it.
Fire. As the ceasefire extension between Lebanon and Israel comes to an end on July 1, let's take a look at the agreement that is supposed to take its place. Brokered by the US and signed on June 26, this framework is supposedly a roadmap, not a final treaty. But many are unhappy with it, including Hezbollah, the Lebanese group that is fighting Israel. Lebanon has two demands: that Israel stop its attacks and withdraw from territory it is occupying. And critics say this agreement achieves neither. What the agreement does mention is two pilot zones, where Lebanon's army is supposed to take control.
איפה הם אזורי הפיילוט שאנחנו מדברים עליהם? הראשון פה, לגמרי מחוץ לאזור הביטחון, והשני, תוספת שמעבר לאזור הביטחון המקורי שלנו, שצה"ל אומר שהיא לא חיונית מבחינה מבצעית, בעצם יצא משם. זאת אומרת, ישראל נשארת באזור הצהוב, הביטחון, ששומר עלינו. כי מה הם ניסו? ניסו להוציא אותנו משם. בכל מיני אמצעים, בכל מיני לחצים, זה כמובן לא קרה.
And instead of saying Israel will withdraw from areas it is occupying, the agreement only says that if the Lebanese army performs certain tasks well, then new pilot zones will be set. Then we have Clause 13, one of the agreement's most controversial provisions. It says, Israel and Lebanon will end all hostile or negative actions in the international, political, and legal forums, which would limit any future efforts to hold Israel accountable for its actions. Despite a so-called ceasefire since April, Israel has continued attacking.
Yeah, so we know that's not going to happen, right? Any hostility towards each other, because directly after this agreement was signed, what happened? Israel went back to bombing Lebanon, to bombing southern Lebanon, killing yet again thousands and thousands of people. So we know that the whole provision around preventing hostility or eliminating hostility towards each other, we know that that's not going to happen. Israel's not going to abide by that, and they have been very, very clear.
Lebanon.
That. And therefore, we know that this entire contract, this entire deal, right? It's completely as fake as they come. This is just really nonsense on paper, because keep in mind, Trump goes to make a deal with Iran, 14-point MOU. He celebrates it. Israel tries to go against it. He essentially puts Netanyahu in his place. Fast forward a week or a few days later, Israel rebels, right? Then you have this deal that has been brokered by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and it makes you question. It makes you question the sincerity of this. It makes you question Trump's position in all of this. Did he also bend the knee? Did he kowtow to the pressure that he was receiving from Israel to have then make a new deal that is completely in favor of Israel, knowing that they're not going to honor any of it? So, yeah.
Even as they negotiated this latest deal in the US, southern Lebanon, Beirut, the Bekaa Valley, it never stopped. Israel's attacks displaced more than 1 million people as its army razed whole villages in Lebanon's south. Thousands are unable to go home because it's unsafe, because the Israeli army won't let them, or in some cases because Israel destroyed the roads and bridges leading to their villages. To deal with the displacement crisis, schools had to be turned into shelters, interrupting the education of thousands of students. The human and material cost of Israel's attack on Lebanon is huge, and the Framework Agreement does not commit to funding reconstruction. It mentions reconstruction in pilot zones, and that the US will rally international partners to actively support.
Yeah, that is just completely crazy. Like, US will rally international partners. Like, what the heck does that even mean? US will rally international partners. If that was a serious point of the deal, it would have made provisions to ensure for reconstructions and rehabilitation. But because they have no intention on doing that, it is just lip service that they're really lending to it to say that US is going to rally international partners to provide any type of assistance that is required, or necessary assistance that is required to rebuild Lebanon. I mean, it's going to take billions. The type of infrastructure damage that Lebanon has experienced,
for the government of Lebanon in rebuilding the country. But will Lebanon be able to regain its territorial sovereignty? Will it be able to rebuild everything Israel destroyed? Or has it accepted an agreement that will constrain it, even from trying to hold Israel accountable?
Yeah, that was part of, and I'll take her out here. That was part of the thing, right? Part of the provisions in the deal is that Lebanon would not be held accountable, or Israel would not be held accountable or reliable for any steps that it takes. And this is how it frames it, to protect its security, right? Or to secure its border, to secure its state. Any action that it deems necessary to be taken, it can take without any ramifications. So it cannot be sued for war crimes. I mean, we know that that's the height of it, right? But it cannot face any type of consequences for its continuous invasion, occupation, destruction of Lebanon, because it's going to deem it necessary to protect itself. And the Lebanese prime minister, I'm trying to be nice. The Lebanese prime minister thought it was a good idea to sign that deal, an agreement of all of that. How ridiculous, which is why immediately after you had significant blowback from the citizens of Lebanon. And his excuse is that, Lebanon has experienced a lot. They've been fighting for too long and citizens are losing their lives. But this conflict, Israel's will to expand its borders, Israel expansion project has been public knowledge for a very long time, especially in the Middle East. And Lebanon has always been a part of that. So nothing new here. The other component of this is this dates back to 1948, right? Like the 1940s, when Israel illegally occupied Palestine. Not even quote unquote. Israel illegally occupied Palestine that forced a complete refugee crisis upon Lebanon and its neighboring states. As I said, I'm going to get into the historical component. Maybe actually, I should do that before I get into Bibi Netanyahu's response here, completely being contrary to the agreement in the provision, where he clearly says, like, we're going to stay in Lebanon for as long as we can, and we are going to do that under the pretense that we're relying on the Lebanese government and the Lebanese army that's already occupied by the West and influenced by Israel to disarm Hezbollah, like the bad guys, Hezbollah, the terrorists, Hezbollah, right? But first, let's jump into the historical context, because this is important. I want us to understand this did not start yesterday. I know this might be really small. I'm gonna try to read it out. I hope you can see it. Stretch it out. Please do let me know, thumbs up or thumb down, like in the comment section, like if you cannot see this. So I try to put to ensure that we're able to capture here a timeline of when all of this occurred. As I mentioned, it didn't just happen yesterday, as the traditional media loves to paint all of this and just completely over sensationalize this conflict and always blames Hezbollah for just the destabilization that is happening, not in just Lebanon, but in the region entirely, which is preposterous. Let's just say that. But I dare to digress. Let's get into the timeline. So 1948, when Israel was illegally created by the Britons, who thought it was their right to give away a fully functioning state of Palestine to Israel, it caused a complete crisis, resulting in thousands, tens of thousands of Palestinian deaths. The UN records it at 15,000, but we know it is far greater than 15,000. And civilians displacement of nearly 1 million. So you have more than 750,000 Palestinians were displaced due to the 1948 creation, or the 1940s creation of Israel that led to the Nakba. There, of course, was extensive infrastructure damage, but the people cost, most importantly, was what really started all of this, right? The human cost of this. Of course, refugees having nowhere to go look to their neighboring states, and Lebanon was one of those states, including Jordan and Egypt as well. You have 1967, the Six-Day War erupted, where again Israel was the aggressor here. They occupied the West Bank, Gaza, Golan Heights, and East Jerusalem. So Lebanon's borders and sovereignty are affected by the spillover and the Palestinian displacement. Lebanon didn't ask for Israel to be created illegally, and now all of a sudden they have to deal with this influx of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. I mean, like, how, right? But let's get back here, because Israel wants what Israel wants. So again, this was an invasion by Israel, and the death toll is estimated to be over 20,000. Over 300,000 Palestinians were displaced, right? Let's get into 1975 to 1990, the Lebanese Civil War. Now, this is thought to be complex, but I think is rather much more simple than what they like to make it out to be. It goes this way. There was a bus massacre. This bus massacre was of Palestinians. And what triggered that bus massacre was a Palestinian driver and some group were in traffic. Think about road rage. Come across a proxy militia of Israel. So they're called the Christian Maronites. It's a proxy group in Lebanon. They get into a spat, a skirmish, and the Palestinian driver gets shot. Later on that day, there was a drive-by shooting at a church. Now, while no credible report has been able to confirm That drive-by shooting was in retaliation to the Palestinian driver getting shot. Popular media or traditional media, the traditional narrative is that it was a retaliation from the Palestinian resistance group. So therefore, Israel and the US reported the different faction groups, and Lebanon erupted into a civil war. Okay, so that's what actually happened. And this resulted in 120,000 to 150,000 deaths. You're talking maybe even more than that. Significant amount of people losing their lives. Just because, once again, like Israel wants to invade and extend its borders wherever it chooses to. And this was the first major attack on Lebanon. And Israel's defense to this, or the excuse that they give, was they were chasing the Palestinian resistance forces, who were, of course, resisting Israel and its occupation in Palestine. Like, I've been here, my family has been here for 15,000 years, and then you come on a freaking ship. You come literally on a freaking ship and you claim that my house is your house. You kick me out. You think I'm not going to resist? I literally spent my entire savings trying to get this house. I mean, we know, we who live in the, like, have lived abroad, or even like home, knows what it's like to save and either purchase a home or build a home. Think about it. And then someone comes and all of a sudden they want to claim your home because you've been generous and hospitable, taking them in as refugees. The next morning you wake up, you have a gun at your head, like, wake up. Now this is my house. You get out. You don't expect me to resist, even if you kill me. You don't expect my children to resist, even if I don't have children. You don't expect my brothers, my sisters to resist. So their excuse for supporting these different fascist groups and proxy militias was to quell the resistance of the Palestinians, which is ridiculous. That resulted in nearly over 1 million civilians being displaced. All again, Israel, right? The 1982 invasion. And this wasn't, again, just Israel. This was Israel supported by the United States, supported by France, supported by its Western partners. So quite extensive. So 1982, right, as I just mentioned, they went in, killed thousands of people, more than 17,000 plus, displaced over 200,000. And out of that, you have a resistant movement. So just when they think they have quelled the resistance of the Palestinians, what happened? Now you have all of this chaos in southern Lebanon. You have local groups who are sitting and watching this and watching the destabilization of their communities. They're like, oh, heck no, this is not going to happen. Born Hezbollah to resist Israel's occupation of southern Lebanon under the pretense that it came there chasing the Palestinian resistance group to squash them. The Hezbollah that they refer to as a terrorist group, they often leave out the other part of that, the narrative that Hezbollah was born out of Israel's constant invasion into Lebanon and insistent on occupying southern Lebanon. So they're far from a terrorist group. They are a resistant group, and rightfully so. If you encroach on my home, you are not going to like to see the other side of me. So call me a terrorist if you want, but it's not going to be pretty. Okay, so Hezbollah is born in the early mid to early 1980s, and then 2000, Israel withdrawal from southern Lebanon. And this is due to Hezbollah consistently fighting for Lebanon, something that the Lebanese army refused to do because, once again, they were occupied. So Hezbollah, born out of this chaos into this resistant fights Israel for how many years? Nearly 15 years. right? Or plus, right? For so many years, and finally, 22 years. After 22 years of occupying southern Lebanon, they were like, yeah, these people are these people are no joke. And the IDF, get this, the IDF, the almighty IDF, had to back up, had to leave southern Lebanon. Again, just during that time alone, you have over 100,000 people actually return because of Hezbollah bravery, not the Lebanese army. Right? People actually felt safe to return to their homes after so many years of Israel's occupation. In 2006, you have the Israel-Hezbollah war, which is a 34-day war following a cross-border operation and the capture of Israeli soldiers. Heavy bombardment across Lebanon. Now, the reason why those soldiers were captured were because Israel had, of course, taken not only Hezbollah fighters, but also Palestinians, and therefore Hezbollah wanted to use that as leverage to free those prisoners, right? That resulted in Israel again invading Lebanon again, resulting in more than 1,200 people dead, who were Lebanese, and then 160 Israeli, displacing over 1 million people again. So I think about the human cost here. The human cost here. 3 people get taken and you kill 1,200 people. You displace more than 1.2 million people. And these numbers are all from the UN, from ICRC. So they're all sourced. You can look them up. 2007 to 2010, you have a border tension and conflict that erupts again. You have hundreds of civilians dead. You have people being displaced again. Israel doesn't stop. Israel wants that part of Lebanon. It bombs Beirut. It bombs like wherever they can bomb, just to create a destabilization, puts pressure on the government to side in their favor, and calls Hezbollah a terrorist group. 2011 to 2023, you have a regional turmoil. So Israel starts attacking Syria. And Syria, Assad at the time, has always been supportive of Hezbollah, of course. And so Israel now is targeting Syria to destabilize all of this support that has been providing for Lebanon and for Hezbollah. And Hezbollah is like, absolutely not. So Hezbollah goes into the region to or go into Syria to try to also resist, again, Israel's invasion of Syria, right? Then you have October 2023 until present. You have the Israel-Hamas war, where Hezbollah, of course, gets in there to help the Palestinians, and it erupts into a full-on war between Israel and Hezbollah. This whole time, you have the Lebanese, you have Lebanon being attacked. Not once did the Lebanese army ever say, like, you know what, we are certainly incompetent. We certainly don't have the military might. Perhaps we should liaise with a resistant group that's actually doing something to repel this insistent occupation. They don't do that. They are proxies, or they're serving as proxies for the West and for Israel the whole time, undermining Hezbollah's effort. How does this work? Like, how does this actually work? At what point in time do you that is responsible for the safety of your people truly stand up and equip yourself to ensure that you can adequately support them? Yet you want to pretend or go around as if to say you care about the lives that have been lost. If you watch that interview from the Lebanese prime minister, you just really want to, I'm sure you're not going to have any nice words. He is very manipulative. He tried to use Israel's killing Israel's murders of families in Lebanon as a reason to have peace agreement or to have a peace deal with Israel. Wouldn't you want to rebel as a family member? If Israel killed my family member, I don't want a peace deal with you. Are you kidding? But no, this is what he does. And we understand the reason why, because he is an actor. Right? He is an actor. So let's go to the comments here. Let's see. Hi, Jimmy. Thank you for joining. Yeah, you're right. Israel did take and hold territory beyond the 1947 UN partition plan and hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. Yeah, absolutely. Completely destabilizing like the region. This and the refusal right to return became a major unresolved legal and moral issue to this date. A lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people don't understand that. They think that this just happened yesterday. Where is this Hezbollah group coming from? You forget that just recently, Israel literally, I have the video somewhere. I have to pull it up. Israel literally intercepted the Hezbollah supply chain to procure pagers. They intercepted that. And it turns out that they own the entire supply chain. Hezbollah didn't know this. Of course, it resulted in thousands of pagers being laced with explosives that killed thousands of civilians. Thousands, just for the sake of it. That's what we feel like doing. So the aggression has been ongoing for many years. And it's high time that we as a people understand the historical context here and not just be carried away by the narrative that traditional media tries to push. It makes no sense at all. Well, after going through all of that, at least now you have some understanding of where all of this began. Listen to what Benjamin Netanyahu had to say about this deal. So this was his response. Let's see, let's get this.
קדם לסיום הסכסוך, בעזרת השם, גם להגיע בהמשך להסכם שלום בין שתי המדינות.
All right, guy, calm down. Calm down. Okay, let's get you up.
את ההבנות, ארצות הברית ולבנון הכירו
Let me stick this back. Okay.
להסכם שלום בין שתי המדינות. במסגרת ההבנות, ארצות הברית ולבנון הכירו בזכותה של ישראל לשמור על רצועת ביטחון בתוך לבנון, כל עוד הדבר נדרש לביטחוננו. אנחנו נמשיך להחזיק בה עד שחיזבאללה ויתר ארגוני הטרור יפורקו מנשקם, עד שלא ישקף עוד איום על ישראל מצד לבנון. ישראל ולבנון הסכימו על שני אזורים סמוכים לקו הצהוב, שהומלצו על ידי צה"ל, שבהם...
Hear them, near the yellow line recommended by the IDF. Like, what the heck? You, as a completely invader, you come into my country and then draw along my borders to tell me which part of the land that you want or you get to keep.
יהיה פיילוט של פירוק חיזבאללה והעברת השטח לשליטת צבא לבנון. אני אראה לכם את זה על המפה. השחור זה הגבול הבינלאומי שלנו עם לבנון. הצהוב זה קו הביטחון, או יותר נכון קו אזור הביטחון, וכאן יש תוספת קטנה שעשינו בשבועות האחרונים. איפה הם אזורי הפיילוט שאנחנו מדברים עליהם? הראשון פה, לגמרי מחוץ לאזור הביטחון, והשני, תוספת שמעבר לאזור הביטחון המקורי שלנו, שצה"ל אומר שהיא לא חיונית מבחינה מבצעית, בעצם יצא משם. אלה שני אזורי הפיילוט. זאת אומרת, ישראל נשארת באזור הצהוב, הביטחון, ששומר עלינו. וזה הישג עצום. עצום. כי מה הם ניסו? ניסו להוציא אותנו משם.
This is crazy because he is blatantly admitting exactly what their aim has always been. Even though it's very much contrary to the deal that was struck. We're not surprised by this. But it's important that we continue to have this discussion and expose these people for who they truly are. They've always wanted southern Lebanon. They find the Litania River to be very strategic to Israel because they lack natural water sources, right? And so the Litani River, it's in that part of Lebanon. In fact, it's, let's see if I'm, yeah, it's right here, right on the border there, right? And therefore, they have been after this for, as I said,
אלה
the
שני
longest.
אזורי הפיילוט. זאת אומרת, ישראל נשארת באזור הצהוב, הביטחון, ששומר עלינו.
Yeah, like that protects us. I'm gonna take this and yeah, this, yeah, can I have this? Can I have this portion? Can I have this portion of your house? Yeah, you can have this part. I don't care, but I need this. Like, seriously.
וזה הישג עצום, עצום. כי מה הם ניסו? ניסו להוציא אותנו משם. בכל מיני אמצעים, בכל מיני לחצים, זה כמובן לא קרה.
Like, no S in the world. This is what we'll do. You like it? Okay. You don't like it? Okay. And this is Times of Israel, right? Maybe move this from the screen. This is Times of Israel, where he's essentially, he went to Lebanon, and essentially said that they will remain in Lebanon as long as Hezbollah remains there. Okay, can somebody please just tell this guy, tell this annoying piece of orange monster that Hezbollah is a resistant group who is from Lebanon. They're from Lebanon. They're from Lebanon. It's their home. Guy, like, it's their home. You are the foreigner. You're asking them to leave their home, to be disarmed so you can continue to occupy their home when they have been the only group, not the Lebanese army. They have been the only group, even though you have had proxy militia in Lebanon like the SLA to fight against Hezbollah. They don't call them terrorist group. You have had insiders in the Lebanese military to fight against Hezbollah in their own country. The IDF has been fighting against Hezbollah. You've not been able to win them. So now you're making it so it seems you're actually trying to make peace. Oh, you're going to leave the Lebanese group, the Lebanese army to disarm Hezbollah, and then you're going to leave southern Lebanon. Yeah, we know that that's not going to happen. Here is another reporting further confirming that, right? The U.S. broker deal would allow, let me make this bigger. The U.S. broker deal would allow Israel to leave troops inside of southern Lebanon until Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah is. What about just Lebanese resistant group? That'll work. No, they have no intent of leaving, and Hezbollah, of course, responded and completely rejects it. They're completely in their right to do so. What do you expect them to do? Agree to this disaster of a deal? That is completely ridiculous. And as I said, after this deal was made, Israel went back to bombing.
The framework we signed today is a first step.
A framework agreement was signed on Friday with Lebanon and Israel aiming to end hostilities between IDF and Iran-backed Hezbollah forces in the south of the country. Residents of Lebanon's southern port city of Sidon and displaced families from nearby villages voiced mixed reactions to Friday's agreement.
People just want to rest for good. I support the Lebanese authorities in this decision.
The agreement is a failure. It is imposed on the people of the south. 3/4 of the villages are gone.
One of the key points of the framework agreement is linking any Israeli withdrawal to disarming Hezbollah. The Iran-backed group is not a party to the deal. One of its officials has warned of a civil war in Lebanon. A statement by Hezbollah chief Naim Qassem rejected the deal as a surrender of sovereignty.
Linking the Israeli withdrawal to the disarming of the resistance throughout all of Lebanon is a very dangerous proposal that crosses all red lines.
In Israel, Defense Minister Israel Katz says the important principle in the agreement is no Israeli redeployment without Hezbollah's disarmament. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is hailing the deal as historic.
Within the understandings, the US and Lebanon recognized Israel's right to maintain a security zone inside Lebanon as long as it is necessary for our security. We will continue to hold it until Hezbollah and the terror organizations are disarmed, until there is no threat posed by Lebanon. I would like you to know this is a big blow for Iran and Hezbollah.
Yeah. Big blow for Iran and Hezbollah and what have you, blah, blah, blah. Well, there you have it. Their motive has been made as clear as day. The Lebanese Prime Minister is a complete fool for signing this deal. And the Lebanese people are rightfully so in all their rights. Have all the rights to protest and to honestly get rid of this prime minister and get rid of this government. They have not served Lebanon or the Lebanese people for a very long time. And the more you continue to allow this to happen, Israel is going to take over Lebanon completely. Well, that is going to be it for our Lebanon component. We're going to jump into South Africa. Okay? This is quite interesting. I just want to start off here with an image I came across. This image, I feel, what do they say? A story is 1,000 words. So you have this group, of course, March in March, and Operation Dulula, who's been insistent on ousting African migrants, or what they're calling migrants, right? They have this anti-immigration stance, or anti-immigrant stance. The funny part of all of this, and I covered this before, so I'm not going to go into it extensively. The funny part of all of this is that they're only targeting African migrants, not the Dutch, not the Portuguese, not the Chinese, not the Indians, not the white man, blue eye, like white hair, blue eye. No, they're not targeting any of those people because they know one thing. Those people are fortified and they can protect, not only can they protect themselves, but the government will protect them. Instead, they're targeting just the Africans. And which is why we have to continue to label this accurately and label it as Afrophobia and not xenophobia, even though that's the overall or broader term. Now, you have the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, who is supposed to be, this formidable leader, this leader of justice. You have him just a few months ago on the international stage condemning the actions of Israel in Palestine, right? The genocide that is happening in Palestine. Rightfully so, as I mentioned, everyone should condemn this action. But when you have someone who is this hypocritical as Ramaphosa, 1 minute standing on the world stage just to get a pat on the back, one will take it at this point, to then being in bed for what this looks like with the leaders of the group March in March and Operation Dudula, it is despicable. It shows that not only is he insincere, he is absolutely conflicted in what he has expressed his position to be against destabilization, to be against chaos, and even went to deploy 13,000 police troops. Well, newsflash, Cyril Ramaphosa, over 700 Africans have died at the hands of your anti-migrant groups. Over 700 have died and have been gruesome death. Have died by machete attacks, burned in tires. and you give the world a face that indicates or that suggests you are actually serious about quelling xenophobia and Afrophobia, but behind closed doors, you are actually in bed with the leaders. I mean, look at how excited he looks. Like, look at his face, guys. Look at his face. Look at him. It's like these guys, like he's like a fan, right? He's like a fan of these guys. Like, I'm so glad to meet you guys. I'm so glad to meet you. Can I take a picture with you guys? Like, you ask yourself, who's running the country? Or is the government funding these groups to actually oust other Africans? And it's really sad that most African leaders are not responding with the level of intensity that is required. While countries like Nigeria and Ghana have been making efforts to repatriate their citizens, others struggle, like Malawi sending some buses, right? Like, what type of economical consequences is the African Union discussing to put South Africa in its place? You have South African businesses all across Africa. What are we deciding as a continent to say no to discourage, and to let South Africa know they're completely in this by themselves? We would not support it. What are we doing? I have not seen a formidable statement from the African Union, besides maybe some lip service. But what economic consequences, what sanctions are we putting on South Africa to ensure that they honor the lives of other Africans? If it weren't for these colonial borders, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Malawi, Zambia, all of those states, we were all one. All of a sudden, you forget the sacrifices of the frontline states and Africa, who contributed. I actually made a mistake the last time I mentioned that the contribution was $1 billion. I lied. It's nearly $100 billion that the African continent contributed to for the liberation of South Africa. Nearly $100 billion. And we sit there and want to conveniently allow them to just forget about that. No, we should remind them. Now, some forces have come up to say, like, look, we ought to give them grace. Let's be nice. They're traumatized, right? They're traumatized. Well, trauma has a treatment. Trauma doesn't persist if you want treatment. In fact, this has been going on since the 90s. South Africa and South African xenophobic attack is nothing new. I mentioned this the last time as well. XenoWatch has been tracking this. Over 100,000, hundreds of thousands of destructions you're causing for everyday Africans. And yet you have cities like Orania, an all-white encampment, or an all-white town in South Africa. All white, no blacks allowed. Look this up, Orania. No blacks allowed. Meaning no even South African allowed. And this is a town in South Africa that's created by all whites and no South Africans are allowed. In fact, they have signboards. They have a posting that says that outright, you're not allowed here. And for some reason, they're fine because they're not blacks. But once you're black, it is problematic. Completely. Hey, Hajj52, thank you so much for joining. Yeah, let's see your comment here. That's because we need to get to the bottom of why, of who is truly behind the Afrophobia. Is deeper than we can see. Who really benefits? You're absolutely right. And this question, I keep tumbling with this question: who benefits? And if you say you're going to target the local shop owners who are mostly owned by African immigrants, right? Where then do you expect that business to go? It goes to the ShopRites of the world. It goes to the larger supermarkets, right? If you remove the outside markets that our people often frequent, where does it forces them to? It forces them into the European shops. So then it makes you ask the question, who's supporting these movements? Are they receiving external support? I mean, it's only logical to think so. When you see how they're organized, you can't think, even though they have said, oh, they just is volunteer and they just raise money. It's hard. It's really hard to believe that. You have to think to yourself that they are being funded by outsiders, whether they want to admit that or not. And more than likely, they're not going to admit it, because then it pokes a hole into their whole story of, we just don't want illegal immigrants. And it's ridiculous. Who are you? You're not the immigration. And this is why I believe the government is actually in support of these groups. Because if you truly care about fighting illegal immigration, you will deploy your immigration task forces. Why allow everyday citizens and vigilante groups to go out and harassing people, and you justify that? That is disgusting. So, I mean, this is a very good point. It absolutely forces us to look beyond what is being presented. Who benefits from all of this? So that's a really good point. And it's the very same people they are claiming to have an issue with. Immigrants. Who are those immigrants that they prefer? White immigrants, right? It is just absurd. And so I want to bring in a clip here from so to mention the Saturday of like June 30th, and of course we know that June 30th has elapsed. In fact, today is what, July 1st. So did a magic happen? Like, did they, I don't know, become rich overnight? Like, you know, did South Africa become better overnight? Like, did they all become millionaires and have better schools and not living in the slums anymore? Did they get their central bank back? Are their mines nationalized? These were provisions that the EFF, led by Malema, that a bulk of the people do agree with. So did all of those happen? And I saw a clip from BBCI where one of the members of Operation Dudula is literally bawling her eyes out. She hates foreigners. I hate foreigners. I hate foreigners. And I asked her why, and she said, oh, they're bringing the drugs. Foreigners are bringing the drugs, and they're killing South Africans. Really? Who runs the biggest cartels in the world? Newsflash, lady, they're not African migrants. Different story for another day, but let's pull in this clip because this is very important. I want to hear you. I want to have you listen to their leader here. She's such an idiot. She is so annoying.
Immigrant groups in South Africa say they want undocumented migrants out of the country by the end of June. They call them illegal foreigners.
Every single time we try and raise our voice around it, we're told that we're xenophobic. Nobody wants to hear what we as South Africans are saying around the issue.
Okay, I had to pause there for a moment. No shade, but girl, Jacinta girl, whatever her name is. Do you see like her lace front? When Africans look at this. Look at this, guys. Look at this. So it is because of African migrants that you cannot afford a proper wig. Your wig, like you cannot afford a proper wig. It's because of the African migrants that you're this disheveled, that you have this cheap rag on your head and you're calling it a wig. Girl, get a better lace front. I mean, come on. This is so laughable. These are the people that South Africans are actually looking to replace a Malema. Like, come on. Girl, this is terrible. Like, I feel so bad for you. This is disgraceful.
Of foreigners and immigration.
Groups like these say foreigners are responsible for South Africa's high crime rates and worsening unemployment. While the government's messaging has been that illegal migration is a real problem, it also says xenophobia and vigilantism are unacceptable.
We will and must not allow groups to use the legitimate concerns of South Africans to destabilize our country through inciting lawlessness and violence.
This guy is reading like you know that, right? He doesn't even believe what he's saying. And look at his eyes. He's reading up the teleprompter. You can tell he doesn't believe not a single word that has been uttered. Not one. And yet, like, the fakery of it all is really annoying. Very annoying.
So far, more than 10,000 Malawians have been repatriated or deported. Hundreds of Nigerians and Ghanaians have been repatriated by their government, and hundreds more are waiting to leave. And here, Zimbabweans wait outside the consulate in Cape Town for documentation which many don't have. But for hundreds of migrants here and thousands in other cities, the tension and what they say is concern for their safety has left them wanting to return home. And Julius Mtenda has lived and worked in South Africa for 5 years.
We are not happy at all, but we don't have any choice because we are not ready to go back home.
Many of the protests have seen significant participation from Zulu people in the KwaZulu-Natal province, prompting this response from their...
If African migrants were eating all your food, guy, you need a gym. You need a gym. Why? When African migrants leave, I mean, it's July 1st. Did you lose your butt and your gut? Did you? Did your life get better? Let's let's finish this up. These people are just the audacity is appalling. Their actions are truly appalling.
I am here to plead with you, the Zulu nation. Let no blood be spilled. Do not be these people.
The South African Social Attitude Survey by the Human Science Research Council suggests that 42% of adults would welcome no immigrants. That's up from 30% in 20.
Okay, let's just get out of this, because this is ridiculous. This is just ridiculous. The point of all of this is South Africa, your lives will not get better, right? You didn't wake up millionaires overnight, right? The African migrants have left. What is the measurable outcome, the measurable success, result of your threats, of you ousting them? You have to ask yourself that question, because it's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. Not only that, your actions are going to have significant economic consequences. I want you to know that. Right now you're thinking, oh yeah, we're entitled to making this decision and to setting immigration policies. But you're a complete idiot, because South Africans don't only stay in South Africa. In fact, they travel all over Africa and the world. As we've seen, other countries have started to really focus on South Africans and target them for deportation. So you're only making yourself targets. No one's gonna like you. Remember the time when you were standing up for Palestine and you got onto a flight and people will give you standing ovation? My gosh, you're from South Africa? That is wonderful. Now you're disgusting. Your actions are repulsive. No one cares for you. And you're going to experience a level of isolation that you've never experienced before. And if you thought that apartheid was bad, actually, I know most of you thought that apartheid was preferable. In fact, in that BBC documentary that I referenced earlier, some of the members of Operation Ndudula explicitly said during apartheid time, they were better off. They were better off. So Africa spent $100 billion trying to give you your liberation, only for you to want to go back, like to reverse all of that. How do they call it? The Stockholm syndrome? where you actually have a liking, an attachment to your oppressor, than the person who actually liberates you, right? It's cognitive, it's cognitive decline at best. I wouldn't even call it amnesia, but South Africa, I can't even say that I can extend grace to you. I cannot extend grace to you. I pray that you do wake up from this slumber one day and you realize the target you've put on your back as a people, and how it's not going to serve you, how it's not going to serve this delusion that you have in your mind of a better South Africa. Like overnight, your crimes rate are going to be resolved. Overnight, your economic situation is going to improve. Overnight, you're not going to have your nearly 50% unemployment rate. Overnight, your government and country is not going to be a filled and occupied state. Overnight, you're going to have and grow the level of courage that is required to actually hold the people that is responsible for the decline in your socioeconomic status. I hope you do wake up from that slumber, because when that time comes, it's going to be a rude awakening. It's going to be brutal for you.
COVID pandemic.
It's going to be brutal for you. Absolutely. But let us know in the comment section, what do you think about this entire South Africa situation? Because we're going to keep close and monitor and continue to monitor progress, what happens from here on out. I want to jump into another topic that I just think is so, it truly boiled my blood when I came across it. And if you had stepped away to get coffee, tea, what have you, I completely understand. But you will want to return at this moment. Because what I'm about to share with you, it is something that directly impacts all of our lives. And it's so crucial that you pay attention to it, because it's going to ensure that not only do you have the understanding, but you understand, not only do you have the understanding, but you are awakened, right, of how our world truly works. And therefore, when the next pandemic comes around, you will not subject yourselves as guinea pigs, as most people did with COVID, with Ebola. Our next topic for the day is me coming into the realization that COVID could have been a bioweapon. You heard that right. I'm going to play a clip here for you. This clip is a historical clip from the 1950s, tracking biological weapons dissemination to the public. To set the stage, the US and other partners engage in the development of different viruses in lab environments. They're called gain-of-function research. They engage in these dangerous gain-of-function research, create these viruses, mutate them, induce other substance into them, and then deliberately releases them into the public as a testing ground. I know, that's wild. I'm going to allow you to hear it for yourself. Then we can all jump into the discussion around COVID, Ebola, and among other pandemics been bioweapons that were constructed in labs or developed in labs and released on the general public that have resulted in millions of deaths. I'm talking for COVID alone, the UN put that number at about 20 million people worldwide lost their lives due to COVID. And we were told that COVID came from what? Primates or bats, right? China, it was China. It's turned out that that narrative purported by Dr. Fauci was absolutely wrong. And Dr. Fauci, the quote unquote expert of COVID, has been part of the orchestra this whole time. But let me play this clip from the 1950s. It's a little bit grainy, so do bear patient. And it's about 5 minutes. It is really important, however, that you listen to it and you pay attention. As I said, it's grainy because it's old, but please watch and pay attention to it.
February 1956. In the heart of New York, Operation Big City was underway. A Ford Mercury, specially adapted with a hidden exhaust pipe, pumped out bacteria onto the streets of Manhattan. Undercover agents entered the city's subway system, their cases equipped with tiny motors, which covertly dispersed the bacteria Bacillus globuli. 10 years later, the Army returned. Light bulbs filled with bacteria were dropped in front of trains and down ventilation shafts to test how far the bacteria would spread through the subway system. For years, these public experiments were kept secret from the citizens of New York. The Army faithfully filmed its own experiments. This Washington, D.C. bus station was the site of another secret test. 30 similar trials were conducted at public locations all across America. One of the earliest experiments had fatal consequences. In 1951, the Army sprayed the bacteria Serratia marcescens over San Francisco. 11 hospital patients developed a mysterious infection, and within days, Edward Nevin died from an illness caused by the same bacteria. In 1953, CIA employee Frank Olson leaped through his bedroom window on the 10th floor of this New York hotel. 9 days earlier, a fellow CIA scientist had secretly spiked his drink with LSD. It took the government 22 years to acknowledge its role in Frank Olson's death. Another cover-up concerned the death of a civilian, Harold Blower. Suffering from depression, he was a patient at the New York State Psychiatric Institute. There, he and 5 other patients were unwittingly tested with mind-altering drugs by doctors who'd signed a secret contract with the U.S. Army. Again, it was more than 20 years before his family discovered the truth.
In 1975, I was living in California with my 2 children. There was a knock on the door, and 2 people in uniform were at the door. They said they were from the Pentagon. They wanted to talk to me about the death of my father.
Okay, I'm going to come out of that a little bit. So I hope you heard that. When I came across this clip, I was stunned. Absolutely. You mean our government is actually engaged in, or actually engages in things as such, deliberately releasing bioweapons to the public, hooked up to a car exhaust pipe drives around the city, polluting the city and infecting citizens, Americans. This was a wild part. Because upon that realization, if this can be done to Americans who are supposed to be the most protected citizens in the world, arguably, what are they doing to Africa? What are they doing to Africa? This is the 1950s. You heard the CIA involvement and intelligence agencies' involvement. This operation was called Operation Big City. Again, you can look this up. There was another, they did a few of this. There's also like a one that did in San Francisco, Operation, I think like Sea Salt, or like Operation Sea something. So the question came to my mind, if this is happening in the great United States, what about the rest of the world? What about Asia? What about Africa? And so I saw this clip a while ago, and then I came across another clip about pandemic preparedness. As we speak, it's probably already taking effect. WHO and the UN has been engaged in what they're calling pandemic preparedness. The gist of all of this is essentially going to give autonomous power to WHO and its designated group to essentially enact emergency sessions whenever they can. So for example, and this is all going to be done under what is called the biosecurity agenda. The biosecurity agenda is essentially what they have drafted to consider everything as biosecurity or security related. For example, they can say, look, we have a food, we have a crop that is not good today, and therefore we are going to launch an emergency situation, right, under the biosecurity agenda. It goes to where all of your civil liberties are removed when they enact that agenda, right? Because they deem it national security, they deem it biosecurity. No sovereign nation, all sovereign nations, in fact, have to sign on to it. They've been meeting in Geneva. About 169 countries, like last I checked, had signed on to it. You don't hear this in the media. Okay, this is happening recently. You don't hear this. So when I came across this clip, I parked that. Then I came across another clip from a whistleblower, a doctor, a bioweapon doctor, who was essentially saying this is what they're doing. What they're doing is a soft coup to invade your life and have complete end-to-end control over it. And so I parked that. Fast forward, a few days ago, I came across the clip of Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is the former head of US intelligence, right? National intelligence. She recently resigned. What she mentioned on her last day as she's leaving, I'm going to play the clip here. She shares with the public that the information that was related by Dr. Fauci regarding COVID and its origin was false. And Fauci manipulated the whole thing. We were glued to our TVs during COVID, listening to Fauci. Fauci was the expert. When Fauci said jump, you jump. When Fauci said don't see your grandma, you don't see your grandma. When Fauci said don't go outside, you don't go outside. It goes back to the question of who controls our world, how power moves, and who are the players behind what they tell us and what they want us to believe. So who are the players pushing these everyday narratives that we've become so accustomed to, that when it happens or when they enact it, we become numb. We don't even fight back. It's like, okay, sure. You want my here. You want my phone? Sure. You want my house? Sure. Let me play this clip. from Tulsi Gabbard. And then I'm going to share with you some of the documents that she pointed to, further evidence that things like COVID and Ebola are bioweapons. They're not from bats, primates, monkeys, wild animals. In fact, the opposite. They are created in labs, and then they are tested on human beings and animals, right? So when you have like things like Chimp Island in a place like Iberia or in other parts of South America or in other countries, they can test on their own citizens. Imagine how they're testing on animals and human beings outside of the United States. But let's listen to Tulsi Gabbard.
Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, work which is now widely viewed as the source of the unintentional lab leak that sparked the pandemic. Now, in support of President Trump's maximum transparency mandate, today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives. Now, these documents expose Fauci's direct role in influencing and manipulating IC assessments on COVID-19 and how Fauci lied to Congress in 2024 when under oath he denied knowledge of or participation in discussions with intelligence officials about viral research. We also received testimony from multiple intelligence community whistleblowers.
So, I mean, this is about a 5+ minute clip. You can watch it on FK Uncensored on YouTube, but it's quite, I mean, she goes on to reveal the facade, the lies of Fauci. And the document that she is referring to, it is this document here, right? Wait, so like this one is where they caught him for the taxpayer dollars that she just mentioned, right? About 600,000 taxpayer dollars that they found was awarded to the Wuhan lab. So this whole blame of China, this was actually Fauci and co. Among other government parties, supported NIH and NIAID with taxpayer funds, over 600,000. They provided that to the Wuhan lab for gain-of-function research, as I mentioned earlier. So this is part of, this is from oversight.house.gov. Feel free to look this up for yourself. There's another one here. Let's see. I mean, this is crazy. Well, let me go here to where he's clearly saying that this is not from a lab.
Topic in the news lately has been the origins of SARS-CoV-2. I mean, do you believe, or is there evidence that SARS-CoV-2 was made in the lab in China or accidentally released from a lab in China?
This is by National Geographic, by the way.
You know, there's two issues. If you look at the evolution of the virus in bats and what's out there now, is very, very strongly leaning towards this could not have been artificially or deliberately manipulated, the way the mutations have naturally evolved. A number of very qualified evolutionary biologists have said that everything about the stepwise evolution over time.
So I hope you heard that, right? It could not have been manipulated. It could not have been artificially manipulated, he says. But that is a lie. That is a black lie, as you just heard Tulsi Gabbard state. It's untrue, simply untrue. And so he's been caught in so many of these lies. There are congressional hearings where he's sitting there and he's essentially saying, yeah, no, there are no artificial engagements here with the coronavirus. This guy needs to be behind bars. You're talking more than 20 million people died from COVID. And this idiot was
evolved in nature and then jumped species. One of the issues of
he's saying that this came from bats, like the animals. It's just the animals. It's just their natural way. If that was the case, why were in there COVID like 50,000 years ago? Why were in there Ebola 50,000 years ago? As I said, there are tons of congressional hearings out there of Congress and the Senate questioning him about the origins of COVID. And he repeatedly, in fact, he stumbles over his word, as you just saw him do, and repeatedly says there were no artificial engagement, which was a lie. This is a document that Tulsi Gabbard was referring to that she released. So if you do have the time, go take a look at it. Great read. Again, you have to empower yourself with information. We all have to learn together. Right? This is on DNI.gov, so Department of National Intelligence.gov, right? She released this on June 12 of 2026. DNI Gabbard reveals evidence of U.S. taxpayer-funded global biolab program. Washington, D.C., after months of searching through intelligence community holdings and files, Director of National Intelligence, DNI Tulsi Gabbard, is revealing new evidence of long-standing United States government funding for more than 120 biolabs in over 30 countries. Oh, God help us. We're done. Like, we're cooked. We're cooked. Long-standing United States government funding for more than 120 biolabs, bioweapon labs in over 30 countries. These biolabs include labs in Ukraine. That's another rabbit hole. This whole war in Ukraine is what the media tells you is useless. Because the media is part of the apparatus. They want you to believe that narrative. So there are labs in Ukraine which may be at risk of compromise due to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. For example, the intelligence community previously warned that a US-funded lab in Ukraine likely housed dangerous pathogens. Subhanallah. I'm gonna lose my You know, you have people, everyday people experiencing all these weird illnesses. These people poison our food, our water, like our air, all these weird respiratory illnesses. Like, this is so evil. But I will share with you further evidence of those labs. Let's go here to page number 1. Okay. What does this say here? Let me make this bigger. Veterinary research facility in Kharkiv, ongoing target for Russian misinformation, other potential operations. They're always trying to combat Russia. Russia misinformation. Killing your people, you're talking about Russia misinformation. The Institute of Experimental and Clinical Veterinary Medicine, IECVM, in Kharkiv probably houses at least some dangerous pathogens and almost certainly remains vulnerable to long-standing Russian information operation seizure or damage. Is that what they're trying to protect? And they don't want Russia to get their hands on? So they wage a war with Russia to protect these pathogens, these bioweapons? It says IECVM focus on diagnostics and vaccines. So they create the bioweapons, they poison us with it, and then they create the vaccines and charge us. They create the vaccines and charge us for it. As for the early 2010s, IECVM held hundreds of pathogens and was one of over 40 Ukrainian-owned and operated laboratories that received assistance under DOD's Biological Threat Reduction Program, according to the publicly available information and reporting. As of recently, as of 2019, had at least some biosafety and biosecurity deficiencies, most notably rooms handling contagious Brucella bacteria, according to reporting. In here, you have anthrax bacteria. Like, again, when they came out with anthrax a few years ago, I'm not sure if you remember, this was something put on the public as if to say, like, this was from the trees. Here is evidence that it's actually part of the bioweapons this whole time. I want to call your attention to this page because it's very important. Let me make it bigger. Okay. Take this out. You see here, Ukraine, over 40 labs, and this was just declassified, right? Approved for public release by ODNI on April 23rd of 2026. So recently declassified. Ukraine over 40 labs built and supported. These are all the labs, right? In Ukraine. Storage of bioweapon pathogens from Soviet era, US training for Ukrainian scientists to work in biocontainment. Oh God, help us. Essentially, especially dangerous pathogens, EDP, certifications, repository of bioweapon and disease-causing pathogens. I hope you're reading this with me, guys. Right? Repository of bioweapon and disease-causing pathogens such as anthrax, tularemia, pay attention, tuberculosis, subhanallah, swine. So swine fever, the swine fever that they said, oh, it's just from the pigs. It's just from the pigs, they say. Tuberculosis, which is a respiratory illness, as according to this report, is a bioweapon, right? Tularemia, we haven't heard of this. Maybe it's the next one that they're going to release on us. So pay attention to this, just in case it comes out. You can know exactly where it's coming from. Newcastle disease, MERS, SARS, Marburg, Ebola. Yes, you heard that right. Lassa, the plague, rickettsia, etc. Guys, I don't know how you're sitting in your seats. This is wild. Okay, let's add this one to this stage. So these are all the reports here. Example information. U.S. built the following labs in Ukraine. Right? The Kherson Diagnostic Laboratory, Kherson Oblast Laboratory Center. It cost them about $1.7 million to build. Institute of Veterinary Medicine of the National Academy of Agrarian Sciences. It cost them about $2.1 million to build. Central Reference Laboratory, $3.4 million. Zakhar Patska Diagnostic Laboratory, about $1.9 million. It has the contractor team, especially dangerous pathogens. They have EDB permit. Guys, this is wild. Let's go to the last one here. The last one that is bombastic. You need to pay keen attention to this page because this one has also the agencies who are aware of these bioweapons development, right? Web of connections to US bioweapon defense industry. I hope you're reading this. Let's see if I can zoom this in further. Let's see. No, I'm allowed there. All right. USDA, World Health Organization, UF, CDC, SAFOSO, JGI. You see Tennessee here, University of Alaska, Anchorage, Orion, K-State, the University of New Mexico, the Center for Environmental Research, UFC, Black and Fish. Wow. So now that your evidence has been provided, I am wondering what you think about all this. We know that COVID and Ebola were created in labs. They were not from bats. They were not from monkeys. They were from funded bioweapon labs that the US funded, developing dangerous pathogens as bioweapons. Well, you have been informed. It's been a really great show. I thought it was really important to bring this information to you. And with that, please do let us know in the comment section what you think about all of this. Follow us on our pages. Let's continue the conversations. I'm happy to share any of this research with anyone who will like them. I might put them on our Facebook page. Actually, of course, the video for those who want to rewatch is going to be on our YouTube and Facebook pages. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But it's been great hanging out with you guys. Let's hope that after today we are just a little bit more informed about our world and the realities of the, I wouldn't say dangers, but the players, and how the narrative that is being driven or that is constantly being purported is grossly inaccurate. And now that we are a little bit more informed, hopefully we'll know how to navigate better. When that next pandemic comes around, do not take vaccines. Do not take their vaccines. They're the ones who created this weapon and then create the vaccines and then sell it to you. And then what happens? The vaccine further poisons you. COVID vaccine was, after you took the vaccine, was not supposed to, you're not supposed to contract COVID. But most people who took the first vaccine and second vaccines, I was one of those people. I didn't take the second one, but the first one, the Pfizer one, I believe. But saw crazy health conditions that I never experienced before. And I know some people have died from it. Some people experience outrageous health conditions and further indications that we have been poisoned. Well, until next time, it's been nice hanging out with you. Be sure to tune in for our next live. And as I said, share this video with your community and everyone you know. It's important for us to remain educated as a community. And we can only do that when we share. So have a good rest of your evening. Bye-bye for now.
Legality, don't tell me. Blame the Liberian girl in me. It's a Liberian thing you'll never understand. It's a Liberian thing you'll never understand. just a Liberian calling me. It's just a Liberian calling me. It's just a Liberian